様の拳など顔どにも効かんわい。お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Welcome back to another issue. I'm Beastie Boy.
I'm Table.
I'm Red.
And it is I, Shino Brando.
And in this issue, we shonen jump through the ages and talk about anime's greatest rivalries.
Two motherfuckers who are truly playing 5D interdimensional chess with time travel. So, I'm talking Death Note. The original manga lasted from 2003 to 2006, 2006 being the year that the original anime came out, the anime movie coming out 2007. There are books, there are video games, there are recreations, there are side stories, there is a whole bunch of live action. Like, I know we all made a big noise when Netflix was doing a live action, but there's like 7 different live action related things.
Any good?
I'm inclined to say no. I haven't seen all of them, so I cannot confirm.
The live actions?
Yeah, I'm inclined to say no.
I would say don't watch the American live action one. Just don't. I watched
That's
it.
fair.
It was a waste of
That's
time.
fair.
Yeah.
So for those who have somehow managed to avoid hearing about Death Note, which I don't know why that would both be true when you clicked on this episode, but to each their own.
Welcome. Please hit that subscribe button and make sure to hit that like button if you want to hear more.
We're happy to have you. But this story revolves around Light Yagami, who gets his hands on a notebook, the Death Note, and you write in it, you write someone's real name, and they fucking die. There's a lot of extra things. The Death Notes come from, like, Shinigami, Death God type characters. And of course, when criminals all around the world start dropping dead, the cops go, what the fuck? And intervene. Enter L. That is the guy's name. It's not, but it is, but it's not, but it is. And this is how the entirety of their relationship goes, with L trying to gather enough evidence that Light is Kira, which literally translating to killer, the name given to the one responsible for all of these murders, and Light trying desperately to seem like a normal teenage boy, despite the fact he definitely looks like a prospective school shooter, and L looks like he was a reject from the casting call for The Ring.
Both of those statements you just said are foul, and it's funny as hell.
I'm right!
This man looks like exactly what My Chemical Romance was singing about in teenagers.
My God.
This man looks like my Chemical Romance is what you wanted to say.
Yeah, this is correct. All of them just merged into one.
So these boys, these lads, to be fair, they do end up adults fairly quickly, but they do start off. Light at least starts off at like the end of high school. L's age is vaguely ambiguous for fun and profit, but he was on a tennis team at one point, so do with that what you will. How he managed to go outside without immediately getting sunburn, we may never know. But this show, this anime, this manga is 0 to fucking 100. Light gets this murder book. He accidentally kills someone. He tests it again, kills someone else, and goes, it is time to become the god of the new world, and goes off. Meanwhile, L manages to pin down Light's, like, general location to the Kanto region of Japan, and that he's probably related to a cop of some sort, before he's even on screen. We haven't met this guy yet. And from there, it truly goes. There is an arc where Light loses his memories, and during this arc, L handcuffs them together with, like, a super long chain, and they remain that way for 97 days.
Okay.
Wow.
7 days of being handcuffed to a guy who thinks you're a criminal, and he is, right? But you don't remember that.
So what I'm hearing is this is their get along shirt.
Yeah. Obviously, the writer was going off. This guy, this man, Tsugumi Oba, truly went, what would be the most batshit relationship to have? And then wrote it. They don't stop. He constantly says weird shit. L goes, I think you're a serial killer. And Light goes, would a serial killer do this? Performs a bunch of weird social actions that, to be fair, kind of make him seem like an okay person. And L goes, yeah, if they were trying to throw off suspicion. And round and round they go, like idiot rats in a circle. Now, one of the key requirements of who we were bringing to our issue today was that in this rivalry, there could only be one. This cannot end with a redemption arc. This cannot end with agreeing to go their separate ways and never talk again.
This can't end with both them hiding out in a closet for an extended period of time.
This has to end in blood. And to be fair, there is already a lot of blood in Death Note. But the way this particular rivalry resolves, interestingly, it ends halfway through the series. There is more following what happens next. And this is the mandatory spoiler warning, I suppose, because it's a big deal. L dies. Light manages to outplay him, sort of, in that I referenced Shinigami earlier. They're basically just like, they kind of like sit and watch whoever has the death notes because they think it's funny. And Light's friend, who has a huge crush on him for some reason, even though she's infinitely cooler than him, Misa Amane, also has a death note. And basically, Light's been kind of using her as a proxy sometimes and like to cast off suspicion. And his big plan is to use her to kill L. And when her like death god stalker buddy finds out about this, he kind of gets big mad and kills L to prevent L from getting her arrested and executed, because the death penalty is so much on the table here. But because Shinigami aren't like allowed to interfere or whatever, this guy immediately fucking zoops off. He's gone, dead, whatever, disintegrated, no longer our problem. Well, so Light managed to get L proxy killed by a death god. I'm gonna go out on a limb and call that cheating.
It is.
I would say so as well.
Like, there's really nothing L could have done to avoid that one, because again, he doesn't really know about the murder notebooks per se.
Nope.
But credit where credit is due. Light did win, and he proceeds to yell this at L's grave. Like, he has an entire fucking like victory speech on the dude's grave, at the end of which he goes, oh, right, he's dead. And then he proceeds to be kind of a moody bitch for the rest of the series. I'm not even kidding when I say moody bitch, too. He spends the rest of the series constantly thinking about how no one will ever match up to him the way that L did, and just being generally disappointed in everybody around him.
Yeah, his boyfriend's dead. What else is he gonna do?
Not fuck the girl who clearly wants to sleep with him, that's what. The tension is real. The anime puts a lot of effort into portraying things incredibly dramatically. Again, he is murdering people with a notebook, but the way those writing scenes go, the evil glint in his eye, the maniacal laughter, the fact that anytime people aren't looking at Light, he has the most murderous face you've ever seen. Like, if anyone turns around at the wrong time, they'll go, maybe that weird scrawny goblin is onto something.
Maybe you belong in a straitjacket, kid.
I won't recommend Death Note to anyone, because if you haven't already seen it, that's probably by choice. But you gotta give it to them. These guys really were going for gold in terms of how much can you hate someone and still be obsessed with them. And that nonsense is what I bring to the table. Oh, I should also mention, they do punch each other like once. But that's during the amnesia arc, when Light is just really pissed off about being handcuffed to a guy who hates him.
Oh my god.
One instance of physical violence.
I don't like you. Who are you?
All right, let me take y'all to the grandpappy of fucking merch sales. Okay, in my exploration of what exactly anime I need to bring to the table to even compete with the rest of our show, I couldn't bring myself to bring an anime past the year 2000. And the kind of reason for that is, with the rise of shonen, you've got like the rivalries and all of that from your Inuyashas, your Narutos, your things like that. And that's where a lot of people's heads live. But you have to keep in mind that anime was around 30-ish years before that. And so I did some diving, and with some help from Shino, I bring you Gundam. I was new to the series, so pardon me for things I might skip over. Encompassing what I covered is Gundam 1 from 1979, Gundam 2 from a year or two later, Gundam 3, and Char's Counterattack.
So essentially what Red watched was literally the entirety of Gundam the series, but condensed into 3 movies for better viewing, because there's a lot in between that you can kind of gloss over and just be like, well, it's just part of the background of war. Those 3 movies were a nice way of just chopping all that down, and they did a good job of it. I enjoy it, so. And
honestly, I highly recommend it. Like, the storytelling is different. You know, prepare yourself for a little bit for that. But this isn't fucking movie reviews of 4 movies. This is SmackDown versus Raw anime style. In this case, it's mental chess and war. So I'm bringing Amuro Ray versus Char Aznable.
This is like galactic chess.
No, seriously. This takes place after Earth has been all sorts of fucked up. Earth Federation has needed to find other Earths to recolonize. We've got space things. I promise you this is part of where the lore from Halo comes from. In my research a little bit about this is a lot of like, oh my god, this takes from so much and spits out so much. My point being, Mobile Suit Gundam not only being the grandpappy of rivalries, but these two being on opposite sides of this war is ahead of its time. Mobile Suit Gundam reigns and remains as the longest running tale ever fucking animated.
One of the, yeah.
I'm
One
sorry,
Piece-
you say that when we all know One Piece exists. Come on.
So these two taking place very early in the Universal Century timeline is the fight between the Earth Defense Force and the Principality of Zion.
Zeon.
Zion. My apologies. I watched the sub and so some pronunciations coming back.
Oh yeah.
And so
Yeah,
coming
so
from the
it c-
language and trying to translate into mine for pronunciation reasons. That's why. My apologies. So let's start with some bad guys. Char, I promise you, is the great granddaddy of every red suited Sentai with a V on his fucking head. I promise you this is where Beautiful Joe and Zodiac Knights comes from. Shining red dude who happens to have locks of beautiful fucking gold hair. This dude slays Space Puss. And I say this
Yeah.
because he kind of operates in his war on his side in like his own little way, very slowly climbing up the ladder. And by that I mean destroying every rung on the way up.
Look, no one can unseat you from the top of the ladder if there is no longer a ladder.
First coming after Garma in the first movie, holy crap, just sends him out against the enemy and goes, so y'all like a bait and switch?
Yep.
And Karma goes, no. And Char basically just flips him off and then just gets him obliterated.
Jesus.
Turns this man and his ship and
Move.
everybody on board into Swiss fucking cheese in space. Char, fucking awesome.
One of the best, man.
A murderer,
Tell
but the
his
best.
enemies charred.
Coming from the opposite side of that headspace is Amuro Ray. This is a kid who essentially wandered himself into this fucking Gundam
Yep.
and just has a knack to pilot it.
There's
it
a
just-
reason for that. I could break it down for you really easily, man.
Please.
So in the new era of time, moving to space has made people evolve a little bit, right? So naturally, people have to adapt to their new surroundings. So in space, right, since it's such a grand scape, your mind starts to expand. So now we have something called a new type, which is like a human being who now has like a bit of a telepathic, telekinetic kind of thing going on, right? They're not really, it's not really a hard science because there's not really study for it yet. There's only a few of them out
Yeah, it's
there.
not midichlorians or anything like that.
Yeah, and they kind of try to hide themselves, but it's a thing happening. With Amro, he just kind of has like just a natural ability to just like, oh, I read it, I understand it, I get it, I can operate it, I can see things coming before they happen, kind of deal going on. And Char's kind of the same thing
Amuro doesn't like war.
at all.
Like, he would just prefer to just not. But the fact
Active
is, because
pacifist,
he
yeah.
is so good at what he does, now being the main piloter of his Gundam, he's kind of stuck. This dude, the origin of the modern problems require modern solutions. And he is strategizing is what is against essentially space Nazis.
That's the great thing between Char and Amro. They're essentially fighting for the same thing with two different results.
Kind of fighting like the enemy of my enemy is kind of my friend, but not really because he slayed my people.
Yeah.
That guy sucks. Useful,
Like,
but
I-
he sucks.
Like I get what you're trying to do, bud, but you blew up my colony, so I'm kind of mad at you, man.
The reality of this series is a lot of who thinks better. It's space chess, I promise you. This takes the allegory that Star Wars laid out for you in the late 70s and expands it. I say this as a person who has watched Star Wars and then watched this. Oh my god, the Star Wars like influence is scattered all over the place. Going
yeah.
right down to Char's fucking helmet, which looks like Darth Vader's fucking helmet but painted silver.
Vader
Like-
has a sick aesthetic, even if he requires it for life reasons. Let him share.
That's right. So much so that's why Char is all draped in red because Vader's all draped in black.
And that's this thing. It is chess on a galactic scale between someone who would just kind of rather not, but has a knack to, and someone who really wants to, but has the same knack. It's both sides of the same coin.
And what's fucked about yours is that their rivalry spans for fucking decades. Decades before it comes to a close. So there's a lot of history between there for the two of them.
Fun fact, the main Gundam, the Rey, only reason it looks like that is because Bandai said, you know what, that'll sell more toys. And I
Oh, you
was
mean-
hooked.
You mean Rex? Good old
I
Rex.
do. It's thought-provoking, it's a war template, and because this was written in the late 70s and came out in the early 80s, like, the world is just coming out of fighting wars.
Yeah.
And so that's still fresh in everybody's mind, and you can see that just scattered all over the place.
Wipe out whole colonies in the name of peace.
Char by himself,
what?
before he even comes at our good buddy Amuro, like, the first line it's even said about his Gundam, the Red Comet, it was told to us blatantly that it slaughtered 5 armies already. It came in and wiped the floor with them.
You a whole motherfucker, man.
Understood.
So much so, did you get through Char's counterattack?
I did not.
Okay, so because when you get that far is when the meat's really there, man. Because now, as I was telling you guys before, their whole rivalry spans decades, man. So like throughout the entire run, Char's in the background like rebuilding his version of Zeon, which becomes Neo Zeon. And like his grand plan, because he's like, for him, he's like, there's no peace on Earth. People are shitty. He's got the Thanos effect, right? People are shitty, and resources are slim, and people, some people don't deserve it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this giant motherfucking asteroid over here. I'm gonna drop it on this Earth and force everybody to live in space. So one, we don't have to fight over resources anymore, and two, we got to count on each other. So which everybody's just like, but you can't do that because we still have people down there. And he's just like, but some sacrifices have to be made.
But Char
I
looks
can
at-
do that. There are people down there, and it's a shame for them.
Exactly.
Char looks at that planet, whoever said that to him, and goes, bet.
So I'm sorry, because like you need to know the ending of Char's counterattack, because that's the main one I wanted you to get through, because that's where the rivalry ends at. So I guess I'll end that for you, unless you know what happens to them.
Please do.
In the grand scheme of things, so yeah, Char does launch that asteroid into Earth. It's going to happen. And so Amuro's like, well, fuck it. I'm going to try my best to use all my fucking new type juice, my TK telepathic powers to like make that not happen. Meanwhile, the Earth Federation now is just like trying to plant bombs, like detonators across the entire thing to kind of like blow it up in chunks and see if maybe that can like be less devastating on Earth. Meanwhile, the enemy is just like, you know what? That doesn't sound like a bad plan. This is kind of fucked up, and we shouldn't have followed this guy all the way here. This is fucked. And so they start helping them out. And so now Char and Amuro are like just kind of like dueling it out to the point where just like they're like, this is getting stupid. And then Amuro's just like, well, I'm gonna just do this by myself. And so like he's begging others not to join. And then all of a sudden, Char is about to like kind of like fuck off. And he's about to dump out in his pod from his mobile suit, and then Amuro kind of catches him and like grabs the pod and it forces it into the asteroid, so he's kind of lodged in there. And Ambrose is like, well, if I'm gonna die, you coming with me? And so Char's like,
Gonna
well,
die
shit.
alone.
Yeah, Char's like, well, shit. And then like through the entire thing, he's seeing like how everybody's kind of like helping Amuro out. So he's just like, oh, I've been wrong about people all along. Here, let me help you with my new type juice as well. And so it works out where the asteroid's blown into 2 chunks, and then their combined powers separate the 2 chunks, so it avoids Earth altogether. But in doing so, they run out of new type juice, and they both die in their pods.
The
Thus
premise
is
of
the
this
end of Amuro
episode
and Char.
was that
Damn.
only one can survive, and for the betterment of both sides of war, neither can survive.
That's right.
God damn.
And that's Gundam. Well, just the ever so smallest slice of Gundam. Gundam's been around for a very fucking long time.
And from there, I think we have to go from space battles to personal battles.
Oh,
Base swords to regular swords.
exactly. Got to go to the feudal era where with a little bit of technology in it. One of the series that Shino introduced or talked about to me. No joking, but Afro Samurai, which I'll be talking about, like kind of 2 rivalries in a sense that kind of sparked out into that series. The series was created by Takashi Okazaki, and the manga original run date was September 1999 to May 2000, and then the animation officially started for part 1 in January 4th, 2007, and then the second part, which was called Resurrection, which was January 25th, 2009, which is a very good series nonetheless. It's a very per se limited. You can easily watch both of these in like a day. Like
Literally.
it's quick sittings for both. Like,
yeah.
if anything. So just like you could easily watch part 1 in the first few episodes, or the movie version of it, sit it for 1 hour or something like that, and then watch the other one in like I think almost an hour and a half. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting notes about this series before I get into the rivalries. Takashi Okazaki, the creator of the series, also was part of Ghost of Tsushima and did a little bit poster works for them. So these images that are in video Also, you can find more on his Twitter or something like that. But yeah, he did some artwork for them, and it's pretty badass. And then he also did a comic for Marvel Comics called Werewolf by Night.
He did an issue of real. Okay.
Yeah, he apparently did it. So, sir, what haven't you done yet?
And that
What are you
circles all the way
doing?
back around because on our live show on Twitch, we've done an issue of Werewolf by Night.
So I didn't even realize you're part of that, and I was like, huh. But basically, Afro Samurai has these rivalry stories or revenge stories following the main character Afro, because he technically doesn't have like a proper name. This anime is like, if you like Boondocks, this is something you can watch. If you like No More Heroes, especially No More Heroes 2, Desperate Struggle, this gets that reference of the revenge plot from the first and second Afro
Mhm.
Samurai. But
Mhm.
the rivalry that Afro deals with in the first part is basically, and like, not really spoiler alert, it's kind of, it is part of the story because that's how it's introduced. He deals with this dude basically fighting against his dad, who was, as they place it, as the number one samurai or assassin per se.
Yeah.
And this dude named Justice, who's a freaking bad mother bleep, comes and slices his dad. And Justice, voiced by Ron Perlman, by the way, and some voice actors, comes in and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna let you live. Come find me later on once you're ready to take on the number one role again."
Mhm.
And
The fuck?
Afro, yeah, let me tell you, this kid watched his dad get murdered right in front of him and was like, "Revenge plot story. Here you go. Boom. I'm that part of it."
Diced and ready for a Subway sandwich.
Table. He got the Boba Fett. I watched my daddy's head come right the fuck off.
Yep. And you watch this kid look at that too. That kid literally grew up right there. He had no
Yeah.
feelings. It got like disattached. Boom. I'm a man. I will fuck your shit up later. The other rivalry that's part of this, or I guess a part of 1 and 2, is a character which I can't really expose his real name, but the character name that he's given for his alternate identity or identity that's given in the series is called Kuma, with this bear head, as you can see on screen. So Kuma is essentially, I guess, would be a good part of like Afro's life for the most part, but Kuma's there to like come after Afro just for the shit he did. At the same time, you gotta understand, when you see Kuma's like original character growing up with him, you can understand why he was like, "Bro, I'm gonna fuck your shit up, bro." Like, because like Afro kind of like, you can vouch for him, but at the same time, he's a psycho killer. Bro's just doing whatever he can just to defend himself and get his revenge. That's what his plot was. Kuma's like, "Fuck this. You ain't deserving this. I'm gonna come and find you." And
It's
like,
on site, dog.
it,
Don't worry.
literally, it's on site.
It's on site, man.
As soon as the man is like, "Oh, Afro here. Huh? Oh, let me get my blades ready." Nonetheless, yeah, just these two characters Afro deals with, and then also many other villains alongside that Afro, has to go through and deal with. It's crazy. Obviously, nobody's gonna survive this. Like, one way or another, someone has to die, just kind of like No More Heroes. But to reach the top, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like I said, Afro is the one who's just like, "Fuck your shit. I'm gonna take this." But one way or another, someone's gonna get killed, and you gotta see who dies from this. So
Yeah, I gotta see it out.
yeah, got to see it through, my boy. Literally,
Yes.
The series is artistically well done. Manga wise, I haven't seen it or read it, but visually it's stunning. That is Afro Samurai, and then the rivalry shitheads that he has to deal with. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, to get more of Kuma, you gotta watch the anime itself and understand why he's there and why he's involved.
Right on. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll end this off, and I'll bring the grandpappy of them all, the guy who starts all the shonens for you, and the reason why we had a magazine called Shonen Jump in the first place. Well, kind of made it popular, anyways. Hakuto no Ken, aka Fist of the North Star. What do you guys know about this stuff? You guys know anything about this?
I know it heavy influenced JoJo.
Yes.
I also know that it has the very famous start of the Omaewa Shinderu.
This is actually where it comes from.
Yeah.
God bless that voice actor for that, because he dropped that line so damn heavy that it just pre-recorded it and repeated it every time anyways.
God damn.
Yes. Fist of North Star. So this is set in a Mad Max post-apocalyptic setting. This was done by Yoshiyuki Okamura and Sho Fumimura, known both as Baransan, a collab, if you will. Art was done by Tetsuo Hara in the manga, which then got translated into an anime, which I grew up on, which is pretty long, and there's a lot in betweens, but I'm going to talk about the most important guys that he has to go flush, because like everybody else in between are just a bunch of Luganites and hooligans anyways, so they don't really matter. But the main guys are the ones I'm going to talk about, the main beefs anyways. So it starts off with Kenshiro, and basically he's got 3 rivals he's got to go through. and their backstory starts with basically them learning a martial art because in the post-apocalyptic world, martial arts is now the shit for some reason.
Let's be real, it's always been the shit.
But now, I guess now it rules the land. So in their school, known as the Hokuto Shinkin, which is translated as the Big Dipper God Fist, they're taught to be righteous, pious. You know what I mean? Everything right. Everything a protag should be. Everybody else kind of has a falling out with the martial art. Kenshiro being the shining example of what Hokuto Shinkin should be is literally the protag of protags. All your stoicism is this guy. So let me just get into it. Hokuto no Ken is Fist of the North Star. It literally is an art style which pinpoints the vital points. Like every shit explodes. All your pressure points, everything, that's what it targets the most. It's a hardcore martial art. Kenshiro is the main practitioner of the martial art. He brings nothing but protag heat. He punches hard. His eyebrows are a whole character on their own as well. He's one part Bruce Lee, one part Jesus Christ. He's the true fist of the North Star. He will end you if you're evil, mercilessly. He knows about maybe about 1,000 techniques. Most of them are for murdering. Face of the North Star will leave you either blind, crippled, or dead. And for some reason, he has a seemingly endless supply of shirts and jackets after always losing them after having explosions of power. He literally powers up and his clothes rip apart, but yet right after, they're back on his chest, somehow, some way.
Carries him around in a little baggie that he keeps in his shoes.
Maybe.
Oh my god, he's the originator of that fucking trope?
That fucking trope. Also, some dudes took his girl. No bueno. So let's talk with asshole number 1, Jaggy. He never mastered a fucking thing in his life. He's codependent on his shotgun and his thugs. He has a beef with Kenshiro because Kenshiro fucked his shit up one day after he tried to kill Ken, and Ken was just not having that shit, and he folded him easily.
Sounds like he had it coming.
Exactly. So much so that Kenshiro punched him only once, and man's head was about to explode. Thus, Jaggy now has to wear a face and head harness to keep his brain from exploding after stopping his pressure points by puncturing them so that his head wouldn't explode. He also wears a helmet because he looked kind of grody. His actions kind of, in the course of time, Jaggy's an asshole. He's the one that sets the course of things. So Ken was really good friends with a guy named Shin. Shin was a practitioner of the South style of martial arts, so the South Dipper. So he's pretty much like a rival, but not like the murdering kind. The kind of hey man, you and I practice against each other, see which side is pretty stronger, and then we just kind of go about our ways. Jaggy kind of got to his ear and was just Ken's got this girl, Yuria, she's beautiful, and apparently she likes strong men, and Ken ain't all that strong, man. I think you're stronger than him, so you deserve her. You should go get her. Kind of laid it on thick. And so Shin was like, yeah, you right. I'm going to go do that. And so he kind of puts the 7 scars in Ken's chest and then leaves him for dead and takes his girl anyways. And Jaggy's just I did it. And throws Ken away over a cliff. And he's just yeah, I did it. Ken's gone. And now I'm the Fist of the North Star, even though you don't practice shit. So in his eventual return, he targeted Jaggy first. And so when he met up with Jaggy right away, that fight didn't last very long. One, because Jaggy had kidnapped somebody who had a brother who was also a martial arts practitioner, who was on the hunt looking for the man with the 7 scars. Ken's pretty much you're looking for this asshole named Jaggy. Don't worry. I'm going to go find your sister. We're going to save her because I'm looking for Jaggy too. And Ray was well, I'm going to follow you because you sound like you may be telling the truth. But if the moment you fuck up, I'm going to slice through you. And Ken's okay, bring it. And so they find Jaggy finally. Right? So they find Jaggy, and Jaggy's just oh shit. So they find his sister, they save his sister, and Ray's let me go handle Jaggy. And he's no, and Ken's no, I'm gonna go handle Jaggy. And he literally does in just one fucking punch. And that's when Jaggy's head finally explodes.
Oh.
Next up, I'll talk about Shin. So this is the next dude, the guy who took the girl. This is Kenshiro's first main adversary. Shin represents the star of martyrdom, so he's a martyr by flow. Shin was coerced and corrupted by Jaggy, who set him on a path of beating Kenshiro, running off with Yuria by force. He was just feeling Kenshiro's girl from a long ways. He practices Nanto Koshuken, which is the South Dipper Lone Eagle style. It is what it is. Shin's style is known for literally ripping through people, tearing through people, straight carving through dudes, whilst in some eagle formations, as if he's flying. His arms are out like wings, and he goes through people.
Man's literally.
I am the flesh scissors.
Yeah, it's something else, man. It's crazy shit. Yuria being unhappy with being around Shin because she just didn't want to be there, she's there not by choice. Was just getting sick and tired, and so thinking that Ken was dead, she just tried to commit suicide, which didn't go well because she was caught, and a couple of guards caught her on the way down, and so they're Shin, no, because they're just posted out there, so they saw her jump down and oh fucking one of them just was in time to catch her, you know what I mean? He gotcha. And so they told Shin, and Shin was okay, well, Just keep an eye on her. Ken is on his way. And so Ken makes his way there, and immediately it's on site.
Oh, 100%.
So like they throw down, and Ken, now becoming the full-on practitioner of the North Star, is just like he's top tier. So like, I mean, no matter how much you try, you're not winning. And so to not die by Ken's hands, Shin's like, fuck this, and then commit suicide by jumping off a building.
That's reasonable.
He's like, my head's about to, my body parts are about to explode. Fuck that. Jumps off the building and dies.
Yo, shit.
And that's number 2. And so, adversary number 3, Rao. And he's the big fucker. So Rao is the self-proclaimed Fist of the North Star. He robbed Kenshiro of the title. He forced it onto himself. He practices the hard fist version of the Hakuto Shinken, which is literally just all brutal moves. There's no technique in there. It's just all hard hits. He calls himself the Ken-O, which is the king of fists.
I am Brick Wall, fuck you.
Exactly. He took the title of Fist of the North Star right from Master Ryukin, who was the guy who taught him all and everything. He was just like, because I'm so damn strong, I'm the Fist of the North Star, which Ryukin was like, I disagree.
I'm the brick shithouse.
So Master Ryukin was like, I disagree, and then he was immediately wrecked because of it. And then Rao would go across and try to conquer the world by going from territory to territory and just destroying people and taking their fucking lands, destroying any territory holder, destroying anything in sight, and saying that you now belong to me. He gains a badass horse that shared a link with this man for murdering the weak. It actively loved to murder things. The horse liked to murder. Take that in.
A murder horse.
Rao was able to tame and ride the fucking thing. If he were to be dismounted from the horse, however, it would change allegiance. Enter Kenshiro's new horse.
Oh my god.
Rao wraps him up in his cape and just like puts his finger through his chest. Bam! And he's like, now you're fucked. And he's like, hey, you have 3 days to live. Make your 3 days last.
That's one way to handle that kind of confrontation.
One punch man, eat your heart out. Like,
But in the end, each of these guys have to go down. Jaggy had to go down. Shin went down. Rao's got to go down. And after murdering their master, and even I don't even know how, but the course of time, even came across Yuria and took her too. He's just like, I have everything you need here, Ken. I mean, you got to face me now, right? And you keep wanting to say you're Fist of North Star, but I'm Fist of North Star because I took that shit. So what you gonna do about it? And so Ken's like, I guess this is the day we throw down, man. So they throw down, and in the end, Ken folds this fool in like fucking like 4 moves, the most powered up way possible. You remember how Goku, he witnessed Krillin die, and Frieza's like, aha, and he's like, oh my god, I'm pushed to the point where now I blow up with this aura of power. You think he's the first guy to do that, huh?
oh.
No, Kenshiro did it first, man.
Kenshiro, the legendary Super Saiyan. I hear you. I hear you.
Jesus.
After taking a brutal beating, got back on his 2 feet and just like powered up and just like boom, and just like no changing of the hair color or anything, just extra power, extra rage, and just folded man's, called it a day. It's the best shit ever. If you ever want to watch someone just walk around with an attitude and just take out dudes left and right, Kenshiro's the man to do it. So in the end, of it all, to end, Kenshiro beat the cheeks of evil and tamed the lands. His girl.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You said the fact that you said beat the cheeks of evil. That's rude, and you know it.
He would beat the cheeks of evil and tame the lands, bro. Yuria, his girl, she would succumb to radiation poisoning. So sorry. So she would live her last days in peace with Kenshiro, who would use the many healing techniques that Toki taught him to keep her alive a little bit longer, as much as possible. But in the end, she would succumb to it and she would pass. And that would be the end of part 1 of Fist of North Star. There is a part 2, which is also fun to watch, but literally it's just the further adventures of Captain North Star and the Planeteers. So like it's good, but it's like you don't really need to watch it. Like first part's like true end, and second part's just like the further adventures. Like you can watch it if you want to be entertained by Ken and just keep blowing people up. Other than that, it's just an extended 43 episodes of just whatever you want. So
More violence.
Subplot with more violence.
Yeah, that's basically it. But the first one's the one that matters. The journey from finding motherfucking Jaggy to getting all the way down to Rao and everybody in between.
God damn.
Holy shit.
And that's it, y'all. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's it.
That's a lot.
These are a wide selection of picks, many not coming from very like zeitgeisty sort of animes. And I think that's for the best, because you got to dig a little deeper into the minutia of like sometimes where anime comes from, the great granddaddies of it, subtle storytelling in the way of Death Note, the tales of the goblin and the incel. This is a wide variety of picks.
And all of these people hate each other.
Mad.
Oh yeah.
correct.
For Kenshiro, everybody's on site every day.
The sun would be on site if he could.
The only reason that man has eyes is to pick a fight.
Plus, you mean eyebrows? His whole eyebrows is a whole character by itself, man.
unfortunate. Beastie, if you please.
Well, if you'd like to hear us discuss more anime, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button so you can see us every Wednesday. And you can catch us streaming live on Thursdays and Mondays on twitch.tv/nerdcrusade. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for more discussion about anime and updates. And join the Crusader chat as well on Discord by checking our link tree in the description down below. You can download any previous episodes or listen on your mobile device through anchor.fm or search Nerd Crusade on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, fellow Crusaders.
The 1000 cracked fist of the North Star, and that's to be continued.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, go ahead and button mash a thumbs up. If you want to swing by when we have a new video, web up the sub button. Oh, and while you're at it, hit the bell to be notified by...